I believe we are live. Welcome, everybody, to our video tonight. We are testing out our video equipment. We've been investing in a lot of new equipment for our virtual pizza classes, and we're going to make some dough tonight, but we also want to test out our equipment, take some questions, and have a little fun with our live audience at home. Jimmy, thanks for joining me tonight here. It's it's 20 to 10, getting a little late, but I really wanted to get testing this because that last class, the Detroit class that you taught, was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited, man. It's it's always a challenge with the AV equipment, which I think we're getting a little bit better at it, but still it's a lot of testing and retesting. And next time it's Jim's turn to host and be live. So we wanted to try out his setup in his kitchen and make sure the lighting, the sound, the camera angles are all working. So so that's what we're doing tonight. So he's got his mixer here. I'm going to throw that up here, and he's going to just make a little dough, and we're just going to chat about the class coming up next month.
Absolutely, and I think let's back up a second and we'll just talk about where we kind of started on this venture. Right, we had our in-person class down at Lackawanna College in the culinary school kitchen there, and that was just such a rush to be able to go through that whole process, planning, developing, getting our recipes together, and then executing on it. And you and I sort of looked at each other and said, I think we might have something here. And but some of the difficulties with in-person and the venues and things led us to trying out virtual. And
Right.
I have to tell you, that first one, I know you were teaching it, I was producing it, but like that was so rewarding to just like be in that and see people interacting and asking questions live, and just like, hey, Jimmy, do you freeze your shells? How do you do it? Like that was pretty neat to just go through that and see the user interaction. And I like the component that we've added of just this live, really like everybody gets to join in and talk to, the instructor.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. We first of all, we had a huge turnout. We really didn't know what to expect. Like you said, we had the live class up at Lackawanna College, which we're severely limited to space. We could only have 10 students, so that's where we started talking about doing the virtual. And we're like, look, if we go virtual, we're unlimited. We can have as many students as we want. So that's why we decided to explore that option, and we found a nice platform that we were comfortable with that has some really cool production features. The live chat during the class was really cool. Like you said, people can chat with us live, and the person that's producing behind the scenes can monitor the chat and then talk to the person that's presenting, and we can address those comments live, and we can actually pop them up on the screen, which is really cool. And then also the students were interacting amongst themselves in the chat as well, and answering questions, which was, I think, something that was unexpected that we didn't really anticipate, which was really cool to see as well. So yeah, super excited for the next class. I think we're going to have a lot of fun and another big, huge turnout, because a lot of people really want to learn how to do pan-fried Sicilian that is native to your neck of the woods up there in Northeast PA. So I don't know, maybe you want to give a little bit of, for those people that don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of your loyal fans on here that already know what pan-fried Sicilian is, but do you want to just give a quick little overview of like what pan-fried Sicilian is and what kind of makes it different than a regular Sicilian?
Absolutely. And I have to say, a lot of my followers actually don't know fully what pan-fried Sicilian is, even though I've been trumpeting it and championing it for the better part of a decade or more. Some people confuse pan-fried Sicilian with Old Forge pizza. Some people confuse it with regular Sicilian pizza. And the fact is, it is totally unique to both of those, right? So the thing that makes pan-fried Sicilian the most unique is that we use copious amounts of oil underneath the dough. And when you put the dough with all of that peanut oil underneath the crust and bake it at a very high temperature, it gets this like, it's a terrible way to describe it, but like it looks like pork rinds, right? It has this like pork rind, snap, crackle, pop, fried texture to it if you do it correctly. And it's challenging to do at home. So like, there's specialized equipment and specialized way to do it in the pizzerias. You have your Victory Pigs, your Pizza Perfects, your Pizza Lovins of the world that do it, day in and day out for decades. So making it at home is a challenge. And, I've been working very diligent to come up with a process. The process is really the most important thing to make this style of pizza at home. And I really can't wait to let people know how to do it at home. And also, we also have some pizzerias from around the country that are also signed up for this that want to offer it. So I want to offer some insight to them as well, so we can put this style of pizza on more of a national stage. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it's cool because I think it's one of those styles that doesn't get enough attention, and sort of putting it in the spotlight, and it's going to be new for a lot of people. So, and like you said, that the pork rind texture is is an interesting way to describe it, but it's pretty much spot on, because you get that, like, that bubbly, really light sort of just bubbly fried exterior that is very similar to a pork rind. I mean, I don't know any other way to describe that.
It's really all about that crust. But the crust, like a normal, regular, I guess I have to call it an American Sicilian, like the typical Sicilian pizza you'd find in a pizzeria, is this like fluffy, baked ahead of time, par-baked crust that's maybe an inch and a half, sometimes even 2 inches thick. I've seen some really high ones.
Yeah.
But this is more of, we have a very crisp, deep golden brown bottom with a chewy, a little bit more dense interior, chewy and soft interior. So it's a unique experience. The sauce is very different from a traditional American Sicilian, and the cheese also, as you know, is different as well. So totally different experience. And we're going to talk all about that in the class. But part of it, while we're chatting here, part of the class is we're going to show you how to make the dough, the whole deal. And why don't we just kind of go through it now? We're not going to give away all the secrets here in this video, right? But dough, people I think are intimidated by dough. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I mean, just I'm sure you follow a lot of these Facebook groups like I do, where that's the number one thing, where people are like, oh, I just got this new pizza oven and I don't want to get into making dough yet, but I'm just going to go down to Trader Joe's or my grocery store and get dough, which is fine. Their dough's not bad, but there really is a lot to be said with making your own dough and learning the process. And then, once you understand and learn that process, really being able to dial that dough into something that is your own. You want to make it your own, and something that gets you to an end product that you're looking for, because everybody's tastes are different. So yeah, starting out with a grocery store dough, fine. That's, not a big deal. But again, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know how much yeast they're putting in that dough. You don't know what hydration that dough is. You don't know how long you need to sit it out on your counter to proof. So there's a lot of unknowns, but when you make your own dough, you control those variables, and you know what you're putting into it, and you can learn how to expect the result that you're trying to get to.
Totally agree. And it's just so rewarding, right? So, I mean, just a couple, 4 to 5, 6, maybe sometimes 6 ingredients, but just simple ingredients that, you can make this beautiful dough. So we're going to do that. But first, we have Brian and Brian both checking in, saying hello. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate you.
Got a quick question here from Brian, which this is actually good. He knows we don't want to give away all the secrets tonight, because obviously we're trying to promote the class a little bit. But what's the most important part when making the dough? What would you say?
The most important part of making the dough, obviously you got to get the ingredients in there. But I think, monitoring the variables is kind of the most important thing, right? So if you mix this thing for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the friction generated is going to just create an immense amount of heat. So, stick to the recipe, use a good process, and monitor your variables. You have to control variables when you're talking dough. So, I would say, recipes from books are good because they give you good lists and instructions, but there's nothing like getting a mentor or seeing it happen in front of you, because there's always so many questions that you have left. And for me, when I'm learning about a new technique with dough, because there are millions of ways to tackle this, I like to see it, and I like to see somebody who does it well, right? So, like watching your class the other night, obviously I've seen your work a bunch, but to just see it in that forum, to see how you integrate a poolish. Now, I'm not going to be teaching a poolish because this is more of a same day type of thing in a lot of the pizzerias. I'm not a same day dough guy, so we're not going to really encourage that here at home. But I would say just managing variables. What would you say?
No, you're right. I think one variable that doesn't get talked about enough is that friction that the mixer creates. Whenever you see a recipe in a book, they'll tell you, mix for so long and then move on to your next step. But there's a lot of nuance that goes into it. And I touched on it a little bit in my class where, yeah, it's good to kind of go by a certain time, but also you need to check the temperature of your dough. With like a digital probe thermometer, because you want to get to a certain temp. And if you go past that temp, your dough is going to start to proof. And you don't want your dough to start to proof too quickly, because that's when it's going to, the yeast is going to start multiplying it's consuming those sugars, and it's going to start taking off. And that's one thing you really want to control. Brian's also mentioning here over mixing, which is a good point. You don't want to mix too long and over mix, because then your gluten's just going to stretch out, and it's going to be, you're going to just destroy the gluten. So it's a fine line, and watching the temperature is a big part of that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah, totally agree. And then one other kind of, sometimes people are shocked when I say this is, I have my my KitchenAid over here, and I know you're a KitchenAid user as well, but they aren't actually all that great at mixing pizza dough, right? Like there are better machines out there. This is a multi-purpose kitchen tool that does a lot of things well, but not super, it's not great or excellent at mixing dough. So we have to kind of, know those handicaps that it has, such as having a gap at the bottom of the bowl and not integrating all the ingredients sometimes, such as when you don't have a large enough batch in a mixer like this, it's not going to integrate very well. So we have to manage those variables and sort of work around it. I'll show you how to do that here. And while we're talking, I'm going to start by adding our water here into the KitchenAid. And I follow a pretty strict order of operations. So it's always, for me, water, yeast, and if applicable, which it is here, we need a browning agent because we're using our home oven, right? So this is sugar. So we're going to go in with the sugar. And then let me grab a whisk. I think my whisk is right over here.
Sorry, I keep looking away here. I'm watching the Instagram comments on my other screen here, because the one thing with this platform, not to interrupt Jim, you can go ahead and keep going, but so we can see comments from Facebook and YouTube live in the platform, and those are the ones we can respond to and bring up on screen like this. But for some reason, it doesn't play nice with Instagram, so we have to monitor that separately, and we can't pull those comments up. So I'm just kind of watching them on the side on another monitor, and I have to respond to them sort of separately. So go ahead.
All right. Let's just kind of zoom in here. I'm going to bump you off the screen for a second, Jimmy, just so people can kind of see the interactive nature of what we're doing here.
There, go to.
We're working on the close-ups, guys. There you go. And you can see right around the edge here, you see some frothing and bubbles. That's what you're looking for. And then your yeast is dissolved and ready to go. Now this is instant yeast, which is ready in an instant. I always say. Uh, Active needs to be activated. So to keep it simple, I am using the instant stuff, right? Keeps it easier. You don't have to bloom it. You don't have to use warm water. This is actually like 50, 55-degree water that I'm using here, and the yeast is going to be just fine. It's going to do its thing. Next, we're going to go in with the flour. We are using the King Arthur bread flour here that you can find in literally every supermarket and big box store.
I'm a big fan of the King Arthur as well.
It's just so consistent, right? Like it just works. Like, and it does perform too, right?
And you can find it anywhere. I mean, it's literally in every grocery store in the country.
And I think a lot of people, because it's in the grocery store, are like, what is going on here? Here we go. They take it for granted, right? They think that because they see all these fancy flowers in the Facebook groups or on YouTube, that they have to use those. But the fact is, you can make exceptional pizza with ingredients in the grocery store. Tomatoes are sometimes a different story in the grocery store. I've tested many. What are your thoughts on tomatoes in the grocery store?
Yeah, the tomatoes is the tough one because most of the stuff in the grocery stores is not very good. I mean, God, I haven't bought grocery store tomatoes in a long time. You probably are more familiar with what the better brands are to go with there. I'm such a Stanislaus person now that's really all I use. I mean, even at home, I just, they only come in a number 10 can. So like, I'll just open a number 10 can and divide it, and I'll put like half in a Ziploc and freeze it, and then use the other half because they freeze well. It's fine. Like freezing stuff is perfectly fine if you have a huge amount of product that you can't use all at once. So I don't know what's like your preferred go-to grocery store tomato.
Well, since I don't have a Whole Foods near me where I can get the
Bianco, yeah.
I usually end up with Cento. That's or a Muti or Muti. The pronunciation, I'm not sure. So Cento is kind of more ubiquitous, and at most of the supermarkets, Muti a little bit more difficult to find, but pretty ubiquitous as well. So those are the two I usually go for. A lot of those, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, San Marzano," just so it says it on the label. But there's a lot of fake ones out there. There's a lot that like the acidity level in some of these are just like, like it's pulling. You ever have that visceral like pull in the back? It's just,
well, you'll see a lot of them will say San Marzano on big letters, and they'll say style and like really little tiny letters underneath. So that's what catches a lot of people. They're like, oh, I'm getting San Marzano tomatoes. No, you're really just getting plum tomatoes that are grown in America, and they're saying they're San Marzano style, which is, some of them are not bad. I mean, Stanislaus is a California tomato, and they make plum tomatoes that are sort of emulate that same style. They can't call them San Marzano because they're not grown in that region of Italy, but it's a very, very good tomato. So, there's a lot of nuance to it, and you got to really do your research. So, but Jim has done a lot of that research on his page with all the different sauces and tomato reviews he's done. So you can go check out his webpage, and he's broken down a lot of that for you already.
Yeah, that's an ongoing quest. I love tasting tomatoes. So literally any grocery store I'm at, I take a loop through the tomato and sauce aisle, and I see if I can find a new one. I was at the Giant Market in Scranton last week, and I found 2 new sauces. Never heard of them before, but excited to try them. So pretty cool. Back to the dough. Now here, like I paused the mixing after roughly 2 minutes. So that is not a big deal. I think people think of mixing dough as like this linear, you have to throw it in the bowl, you have to mix it, and it's done. I don't really view dough that way. I think time is on your side a lot of the time. So while we've been talking. The yeast has been getting to know the water and the flour, and the sugar is giving it something to eat. It's doing its thing, right? So that's not a bad thing, that we're taking our time mixing it. Now in class, it's a 90-minute class. Maybe we'll be moving on a little quicker than this, but so at this point, keeping it simple, I like to add the salt after about 2 minutes of mixing, as well as the oil here. So the salt, if you add too early in the process, I believe it can tear the gluten fibers and make a brittle dough. So at this point, we're putting in the oil to sort of lubricate that and kind of move it along. Keep in mind, this is a simpler dough. This isn't this artisanal gourmet, we're not using pre-ferments, Polish or Biga, anything like that. Nothing fancy here. We're just, in the pizzerias, a lot of times it's a same day dough. This is going to be go ahead.
This is a Northeast PA working man's dough, right?
You're exactly right. Jimmy, I'm seeing a fun comment on YouTube. Why don't you throw it up there and we'll talk about it?
This pan fried one?
Yeah.
All right, that's a good one. Here we go.
So I'm not, text is hard to kind of read into here. But is this the pan fried Sicilian that I invented and are overly excited about so often? So no, I absolutely did not invent pan fried Sicilian. Yes, I have tried to advance the terminology to sort of, coalesce around a term that we can call it. Like Old Forge pizza, we can speak to. It's well defined. It's from one town. It's been adopted in surrounding towns, not that much, further beyond NEPA. But pan fried Sicilian is like super condensed, aside from Turco's Pizza out in Newcastle by Pittsburgh. Someone in Vermont's doing it, and maybe a few select places. But before 3-4 years ago, nobody else was doing it outside of Luzerne County, Northeast PA, and maybe 1 or 2 in Lackawanna County in Pennsylvania. So I did not invent this style of pizza. I am championing it. And yes, I talk about it often. And yes, I'm overly excited about it. And I think a lot of people share my excitement. So thank you for the question. And there we go. Yeah, so Victory Pig is the one who invented it. Thanks, Benny. I appreciate that. 1940s, I believe Victory Pig opened just after, which World War would that be? I'm a little World War II. Just opened shortly after there. And, then the pizza and barbecue became a thing. Many pizzerias sort of fell off the family tree there and spawned. There's about 50 places now in NEPA that make this style of pizza, different versions.
Oh, wow,
of it.
50.
Yeah, I maintain a list. I have to update it for 2025. Some have closed, new places have come on, and I have to update that. But about 50 places, I guess you could say in the world, because we do count I do count, Turco's Pizza and I think it's like Pop's Pizza in Vermont as 2 places that sell it. So,
yeah, that's cool.
So
it's cool that it's starting to branch out, like people, and it's really. I mean, I haven't heard about the place in Vermont. I'll have to look them up, but I know, it seems like it's people that are either like from that area or have family in that area that have brought it to other parts of the country. So it's cool to see it kind of spreading out now.
Oh yeah, and I hope this will be a catalyst to spread it out now. Now, if you can see, the Pizza Prince is stopped by here. He's grabbing a drink out of the fridge. So, and I think that's one of the cool things about what we're doing here is, wait. So, what we're doing here is we're bringing live into our kitchen. So live is like such a different animal, right? So we can do this polished, really uniform and really super scripted type of thing, but this is so much better, I think, because there are questions that come up, and there people see things differently when they're when it's coming out of your mouth, you believe that you're saying something a certain way, but then, you know, those questions in your class, they were like infinite, like, and it
Yeah.
wasn't that they just wanted to make sure they knew what you were saying. And the ability to go and say, hold on, you said this is hydration, or how much do you put in the pan, or can you just all these questions that come up, like what was that like? Because let me just explain quickly. As the producer that I was on that show, I had a line into your ear, and then I would pipe, you know, I would let you know, hey, you know, this question just came up. And
Mhm.
what was that like, kind of live, when you have your plan, but you know these questions are rolling in?
No, it was definitely a challenge. So, the first thing was I had to remember that only I could hear you in my ear and everybody else couldn't, because I was like answering you. And then I was like, wait a minute, nobody else can hear this. So, like, that took me a little bit to get used to. Um, so I was able to, but it really, you know, it's like, you know, you've made pizza a million times like I have at this point. It's like, I felt like I was just in a groove of doing what I do, and then getting a question every now and then, like you're just like on autopilot. So like I was like knew where I was at. I could answer the question and come back to it, and like without like breaking stride. So um I think it's like you did a good job of telling me when there was a question, when you sort of knew I could take it. You know what I mean? Like you weren't like jumping and telling me that there was a good question where I was in the middle of something or when I was speaking. So you did a really good job producing and picking those spots, which helped out a lot. So I mean, it's sort of you know, it sort of goes both ways, where as the producer, you're feeding that information to the host at the right time, so you're not breaking their sort of cadence, and like they have this momentum going and they're speaking on a topic. You don't want to interrupt that. So so kudos to that, because it's like I think that takes a lot of sort of restraint too, because if you see a good question, you're like, oh my god, I gotta get to this question. But the other cool thing about the platform is like you can star them, so you can like sort of star something and say, okay, I'm going to bookmark this and scroll back and get to it when there's a good time to get to it.
Totally agree. Now, as the producer, I thought, because I mean we are working on this every day to prepare to make sure that it's the best it can possibly be, right? Like, because like we're having conversations like every night, like how do we do this? How do we tackle that? How do we make sure people, you know, learn what we're trying? Is this right? Like, you know, can you double check this for me? And does this recipe make sense? And like it wasn't that hard, because I kind of knew, you know, the points, because like we're just working so hard at making sure that we're doing the right thing to make sure people leave here with value and leave here learning. It wasn't really that hard, because I was like, okay, I know he's going to pivot to this next, right?
Mhm.
Because like
Yeah.
I've read your recipe 15 times by this point, right? But that's the cool thing, that we're, you know, there's a lot of quality control here, and we really, like, I'm passionate about this, and I know you are, and like we're here to make sure that like people get a lot out of this, right? And I think that's why we made the video available for 30 days after on demand. So, and we're going to do that with this class as well, and future classes too.
Yeah, and a
But
lot of people have been taking advantage of that. Like we had found a really nice platform for sharing the video afterwards that's password protected and sort of restricts things, which is nice because we only want the people that sign up for the class to have access to that. We really, you know, we want to be fair to those people that paid to see the class, that they're the only ones that get access. And it's cool. I mean, I can see all the analytics of the viewer. So like it's cool to see the people actually taking advantage of that and watching it. I mean, we've had like I'm pulling it up right now. We have like 163 views on the video so far from, and we did the class what, a week ago, a week and a
yeah,
few days. So yeah, people are really taking advantage of it, and you could tell they're going through the recipe and making pizza this week with what they learned in the class last week.
just so cool. And then the questions in the DMs and in the email, just like people doing it, just kind of like, and the best part is like, obviously they're messaging both of us, but the best part for me is like, hey, like, check out this Frico on this thing. And like, I never would have thought, you know what I mean? People are just like stoked and they're doing it. And just to see their success is like super, super cool.
Sorry, just responding to some Instagram comments over here.
All right. So I have this like mat here, not because I need it, but because the glare is kind of, not too bad. I'm going to move it. The glare is what was pretty bad before. So as you can see, I mixed this pretty sparingly, right? I think it was like 2 minutes and then maybe like 4 to 5. About 4 to 5 minutes. And you can see that it's not actually super smooth coming out. There's still some pock marks, some wrinkles. So I like to use a process where I use like resting periods. First, when it comes out of the mixer, I will knead it, and kneading it is, I simply do these like 90-degree turns and then press down. And this is helping to build the gluten fibers, right? And then while I'm doing this, I only do this for like 30 seconds to a minute. People like roll their eyes. They're like, not kneading the dough, too much work, right? Like the KitchenAid just simply doesn't mix it well enough for a shorter ferment time like we're doing here. 24 hours, 48 hours. Now, if you go 48, 72 or longer, the gluten has a little bit more time to sort of develop. But here we're doing a shorter ferment. So we need to build that sort of by blood, sweat, and tears. But like 30 seconds of kneading 3 different times is not going to kill you, right? So
we had a quick question here from Instagram. What's Ryan from Sanctuary Pizza is asking, what's the hydration on the dough?
This one 62%, and that's right around where I believe a lot of the pizzerias are. Some I've heard are actually like 58, very dry dough. I like 62 seems to be my sweet spot. So but we're more focused on the process, right? So if you come in at 60, kind of is what it is, but focus on the process, making sure we build good gluten structure so that the dough is elastic and can stretch, and those bubbles can form. So this is why we're using good technique making the dough. How about Benny here on YouTube?
Dirty Benny.
Tried unsuccessfully on a Calphalon pan. I wonder what kind of Calphalon pan he's
Is that like a cake,
about.
like a cake pan, maybe?
I'm not sure. I have cookware that's Calphalon brand. But if he's using like a cast iron or something like that, the challenge with so Dirty Benny
Wagner's Pizza
aluminum.
Bus joining us on Instagram. Doesn't Wagner's Pizza Bus in Alaska do a pan-fried Sicilian as well?
He does, and
actually, he does like 20 styles of pizza, but pan-fried Sicilian is one of them, I believe.
Yes, and he makes it, and like I can only tell by looking at it. It looks pretty legit. Like it's got the right melt. It looks. I seen the bottom of it. It looks pretty legit. So, kudos to him. I'd love to taste it, but I haven't been to Alaska myself.
No,
but I'd love to get to the bus. if I am there, that's the first place I'm going is Wagner's Pizza Bus.
So Dirty Benny saying it's an aluminum pan. So I'm imagining it's some sort of like aluminum cake pan, which probably doesn't have a very good nonstick coating on it, like a Lloyd pan does that you're holding there. Yeah. Why don't you talk about that, about your Lloyd pan there?
Sure. So even though we're using copious amounts of oil or shortening, you'll find that in the class, one of our hacks involves shortening of some kind to make it easier for you at home. But like, even though you're using like a ton of oil, that dough can still bond to the aluminum pan. But these Lloyd pans, and I've been recommending them for, probably 7, 8, 9 years. And people are like, ooh, that's a little more expensive than the $14.99 pan at the, TJ Maxx or whatever, but these are so different. This is aluminum, right? So the benefit of aluminum is that it transfers heat faster into the bottom of the pan. Steel is what is mostly used in the pizzerias. Okay. The pizzerias have hotter ovens, and a lot of times they can be brick ovens, which transfer very quick and the heat gets replaced. But we here with the normal home oven don't have that luxury, right? So Lloyd pans transfer heat much quicker. It starts frying faster. And it's almost like when you sear a steak, you wouldn't sear a steak at like 300, right? Like you want to get that sear in quick, and then you get your thing. So we want to set this on a baking steel so that the heat penetrates quickly, gets into the bottom of the pizza, and starts frying it immediately within like 2 to 3 minutes. That's kind of the thing.
Right. Yeah, the aluminum transfers the heat something like, I think I was reading somewhere that something like 5 times faster than steel. So it's which is critical if you're using it in a home oven, because obviously home oven's not going to be the same as a professional deck oven where you're getting that floor much hotter. So yeah, these things perform like amazingly well. They perform well in a professional setting too, but for a home setting, they shine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I have in different sizes close to 50 of these. I don't sell pizza. I just love to have them. So I love these. This is my favorite size, the 10 by 14. And I know you're an 8 by 10 guy, but I have many of those as well. But for the pan fried, I like to get a little bigger. But one of the things about going even bigger than this, because I have the next size up as well, the smaller the pizza, the easier it is to get a nice uniform crisp across the bottom, because our home ovens, even though we have baking steels, baking stones, don't replace heat as well as like a commercial oven that has a flame, directly underneath the brick, designed to do that. So, but the Lloyd pans, in my opinion, are a must. And in our classes, you will see, we're not paid to say this. In our classes, you will see that Lloyd is always the recommended pan. So shout out to them. So over here on the dough, this is kind of my MO. And again, it seems like we're just talking, but this is really how I make dough. This is how I really do it. Like, I put the bowl on top, so we have like this no air is getting to it. And I like to give 20-minute rest intervals. I don't think it's been quite 20 minutes yet, but I'll show you what I do. So I like to take the bowl off, and then I'll knead it again, right? And while I'm doing it, it's building strength, but more importantly, it's getting smoother. Like you can see, let's see. Can we tell here? See, like we're not seeing pock marks, are we? We're not seeing, like, there's a couple of wrinkles, but we're not seeing pock marks there. Like, just that simple. I touched this for like 10 seconds, like it's just so much easier just to give it a little rest, because like time is on your side. I do this up to 3 times, and people get kind of turned off because I don't want to deal with it.
Lost the feed on that camera.
I think I just my battery just died, so we'll move that out. But that's the whole demonstration there on dough. So we would give it another rest period, and
so that bench rest covered is very important, because what's happening there is it's letting the moisture, the water that's in there redistribute. And it's sort of just, the flour is still absorbing the water that, happened during the mix, but it's also letting it relax as well. So having it rest on the bench is where like you said, you only needed that like 3 times and it was already smooth. So that, it's just that relaxed, absorption of the water is pretty critical.
Right. And stressed out dough is not a good thing, right?
No.
So when you leave it, don't let the air hit it, but when you leave it like we have it, it'll start resting, it'll start flattening it out, and then it'll start rising. And that's when you know you're in business, right? That's how you know you're going to get it in the pan successfully. You know it's going to rise like you want it to. But if you put in the slight little tiny bit of extra work in the front end, you'll have a much more magnificent result on the back end. And a lot of people will say, "Hey, my dough didn't rise. The yeast was dead." Most of the time, the yeast is not dead. There was improper technique, and we didn't manage the variables properly. And we need to show them how to manage the variables in our class. So I'm pretty excited to do that. And I like to teach in a very simple, common language, kind of way, because our NEPA pizza really is simple at its core. It's the common man's stuff, right? So we're not coming out with these like really crazy artisanal methods. And, I'm going to show you how to keep it simple, how to do this at home, and how to have success. That's all I want, is to see you have success. If you want to take it to the next level, message me on the side, and we'll talk about how you can get it there if you want to make some. But we want to keep it simple, and we want you to have success at home.
Absolutely.
Let's see. We're following up on the. So I think we covered that question about the Lloyd pan on top of the steel.
Yep.
And I think, if when I do get my third camera going, we're going to have an oven cam as well here. When I do get that third camera going, you would see that there's a baking steel in my oven, literally doesn't leave it. Okay, first because it's heavy and I don't feel like moving it, but second, I use it constantly, just constantly.
I do the same thing. I have a baking steel in my oven that doesn't leave. It stays there. It actually helps the oven, even when you're baking cookies or anything in your oven, because it's it's this giant hunk of steel, which it creates this thermal mass. So it makes your oven more efficient by it absorbs all this heat and it keeps the temperature regulated better in your oven, which, I mean, it's physics, but you wouldn't think just a piece of steel is going to do that, but it does. It helps your oven actually bake better. So you're better off just leaving it in there anyway.
It really does. Because, I mean, let's face it, they're not making ovens the same way that they used to, right? So like this is a newer oven. I think I bought it maybe a year and a half ago. It cooks terribly compared to my previous oven, which failed. But when I use the baking steel, it regulates, and it sort of moderates the heat a little bit better. So really nice, really good asset. And I always tell people, they're like, "Oh, well, the baking stone's like $30, the baking steel's $130." But the difference is that, I mean, first, if you drop a baking stone, it's broken, it's gone. But a baking steel is like a generational, gets better with age. Every pizza you cook, it gets better. And like
I've taken mine too, and I've put it on the grill, and I'll do smash burgers with it outside. Do you ever try that?
I haven't. I should.
Yeah, you throw it on your outside grill and like heat it up and get it just like smoking hot, and then just smash burgers on the baking steel on the grill is fantastic.
That sounds like a little extra seasoning on that thing too. Great. Which is great. So, also, like, so we're talking about making this in your home oven. You could also make it in like an outdoor oven. So if you have like an Uni or a Ghazni, like you can do that out there. It's just about managing temperatures. Like it becomes a little more complex because you need to be aware of temperatures and then heat replacement. But we're also teaching an outdoor pizza oven class, and I think it was April.
It's April 12th. It's going to be a Saturday afternoon. We're waiting for the weather to get a little bit nicer here in Pennsylvania, because right now it's I think it's like 8 degrees outside, and we're fighting some pretty cold weather. So we decided, let's try and do something in April. Hopefully it's going to be warmer. Hopefully it doesn't rain. If that happens, we'll figure something out. But we're going to be baking outside. We're both going to be cooking in outside ovens. And we're going to be showing techniques. We're not going to focus as much on dough with that one, because, we've been covering dough in my class and in Jim's class. We're going to be more focused on managing the oven, managing the temperature, baking multiple pizzas back to back. If you're having a pizza party and you're planning on having a bunch of people over, sort of how to go about doing that successfully. And not just having a mess of pizzas all over the place that tear, and you can't launch a pizza. So we're gonna try to make you a better outdoor pizza oven baker, and cover everything you need to know to make pizza successfully in your new uni or other outdoor oven that you may have gotten for Christmas. So
the white bottoms and the burned top crust. That's like the two things I always hear. And how do you launch the thing into the oven with keep it a circle? We're going to help you do all of those things and much more very well there.
And we will have a class manual, which we have for all of our classes, where it basically has the class outline, a little bit of background information. Then we'll also have a dough recipe and a couple pizza recipes in there. So you will still get that, but we're not going to be making dough live. We want to really focus this class on the process of stretching, topping, launching, baking the pizza. We're probably going to do a couple different styles. Oh, Jim's going to toss pizza, mate. You're going to toss dough? Maybe I'll show you how to toss a dough. So yeah, we're really going to talk more baking and making the pizza process than making the dough process.
Yeah, that's an important one, because I think so many people are in that realm. They just got their oven.
Oh, Jim, we just lost your feed there. It's interesting. Let's see what happened here. Now, maybe his camera went dead or something. Well, so it's at 10:30 here. Maybe we'll wrap it up, and we'll probably do another live like this in the coming weeks once we get a little bit closer to the pan-fried Sicilian class. Talk a little bit more, answer questions anybody might have. So watch out for the announcements on Instagram and Facebook. We kind of did this impromptu tonight just because we were chatting on the side, and Jim wanted to test his setup, and he said, "Hey, you want to go live?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Why not?" So we figured we'd jump on and see who was up for it, and take some questions. So thanks everybody for joining us. And again, look for announcements. We'll definitely be doing this again, and talking more about the class and taking questions live. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.